Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. We are vibe coding. Vibe coding. All right. So what do we got going on? I would say in general, I'm going to share my entire screen. Maybe that get things going. Wow, that's fun. I'm going to move this down a little bit to where am I on the screen? Because I'm down in the bottom right corner. That's not going to be ideal. Maybe I got to move this over here. And then I'll move this one over here. And then take a look at that. What does that look like? Yeah, it's not exactly ideal either. Well, that's okay. It's just make sure that it's all in here. Yeah, it's fine. Hide this. All right. Is there anything else I need in there? All right. So I put in the money. I don't even know what this is. I'm just gonna accept all. So this is the problem. It's like I don't really know anything about software coding. So I fixed the profile page to show. Okay, the question is, can I like if I refresh the page? Still says user. Added user data fetching. The profile page now properly fetches your data from Supabase when it loads. Added a loading state to show a message while the data is being retrieved. Updated email display. Modify the components. Show your actual email address. Added a failback example email case that data isn't available. Improve the logout functionality. You can log out but now properly redirects to the author. Does it? Okay. You have to apply it, I guess. Okay, it's still showing. It's still showing user at example.com. Look at all these files, man. This thing is crazy. It's just a million files. I have no idea what these files are supposed to do. So what happened? Like, here's my my product requirements document, and then in here we got our cursor rules, and then here is my app. I don't know, man. This is intense. It's like I don't know how would you do this if you don't know any coding at all. I guess I just keep asking questions. Vibe coding. Hey, look at that. It shows my email. It did it, actually. So is it possible to click the change text in the row email address change in order to change my email address? And what is it? What do you want to do? And what is it called when you move it from one to another and move all the projects to the new email address? What would the UX look like? should it pop up or navigate back to the sign-in page? What's the other thing? How to test logout completely to clear any existing session, sign up as a new user. Go to your profile page. So my assumption is that, like, with my current, so I paid $20 for Cursor, and I guess it said I get like 500 somethings. Like, what does that exactly mean? 500 somethings. I guess it means down here, like 500 like queries, or does it mean that I create? Because sometimes when you create a query, it has like 10 different steps. It like does 10 different things. So does it include like all the 10 things that it does out of your 500? What the heck is this debug information? Why do I have a debug information? Wow, that's crazy. Let me design a good UX for changing your email. This feature should be accessible and secure without unnecessarily disrupting the user flow. Okay, so what's going on here? My assumption is that at some point it's just gonna, oof, it just died. Oof, it's back on. No, what happens when okay, I've implemented the email change function with a clean, intuitive UX. Here's what you get. Initial state, your email is shown with a change link next to it. When you click, a mobile dialog appears, not a fully navigatable page. Has a field for your new email, requires current password for security verification, includes new email, current password, update email, space between ideas. Is that my actual account, or is there? I think there's dots between it. Space between ideas. What the heck is this? Is this even my email address? Yeah, there's dots. I forgot my password. Oof. Can I log out? No, I can't log out. Okay. I was able to change my email address, but when I clicked log out, it navigated to the main menu page. I guess this is vibe coding, right? That's my understanding of vibe coding. You just tell it what it did. So, let me fix these issues. So honestly, I spent a lot of time creating this this project requirements document. Like a lot of time, an insane amount of time. I would say probably 6 years. And then like in the last couple months, it was like just simplifying the app. It's simplifying and simplifying and simplifying and simplifying, and trying to create something that was like useful and understandable. And finally, like I had it down to some really, really basic functions. Like, all right, this is what the page is supposed to look like. This is the main menu page, so it doesn't exactly show this. One of the problems why it doesn't show that is because technically I don't have any projects. I'm not really sure why it says that in this section. So when I click the projects button, then you can see that, okay, that should stay in the middle. Anyways, it creates a new project. So that's true. This is actually in the product requirements document that when you create a new project, okay, so now I've created two projects. So here's the first one, here's the second one. Now can I delete this project? No, I can't. And can I move the project? No. So all of these things are actually written in the project requirements document. And why are there all these things in the history? Okay, and then here's the options, here's the four options. Let's see if I move it over. If it, yeah, okay. So it has like a lot of the key features. It's doing an okay job. If we go to the profile, okay, so I went back to the profile. It didn't work. What if I click? I'm not logged in. Space. All right, let's log in. Hmm. Development mode. Sign up. Sign up. All right, so you could see there's kind of like a way to do it, but it's like, okay, it's got my email. Uh, see, like this, I click this project. Shouldn't be a project. And then if I go into Vision, let's say like I click this, I click Save. This field is okay. All the fields are required now. So there's lots of issues. And then I got to click that. And then there should be an item in the history. It's not in the history. And then if I click Vision, it's empty. Yeah, there's tons of stuff that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It does not work. Yeah, got a project. It's interesting. That doesn't go to the right place. That doesn't go to the right place. Yeah, so there's huge navigation issues. Now the thing is that so what happened was like I have a very clear project. It's very, very clear what should be happening. I know what should be in like the main area of the profile page. Then this is the main menu. And then here's the workflow. Like so if you have once you create a project, then you need to talk about the vision of the project. And then the next question is, do you have an objective? If you do have an objective, then you go straight to the objectives page. This is actually not really supposed to be there, but anyways. All right, and then once you have the objectives page, then you create your scoreboard. So when you're working with objectives, like when you're trying to achieve a project, then obviously you have to complete these objectives. And how do you complete objectives? It's by you go through the objectives page in order to brainstorm what needs to be done. After you've finished brainstorming what needs to be done, you put it into a scoreboard. And then, so every day you're going to be having these touch base meetings with either yourself or people on the team. So let's say you wake up in the morning and then you decide to have a touch base with yourself. So then what you do is you click that little touch base button, and then it's gonna add an item in the history, and it's gonna navigate to this touch base page, which is this page, which is not that page. And then once you go through the touch base experience, then it's going to ask you to go back to the scoreboard. And then the question is, have you completed all the tasks? If you haven't completed all the tasks, then at some point you're going to have to do another touch base. So you're stuck in this loop until all of your tasks are done. And then once all the tasks are done, then the question is, did you complete the project? If you haven't completed the project, then you have to go back and you have to decide what's the next objective. And if you have an objective, then you start this loop again. So you have one loop, which is objective touch base. No, it's objective scoreboard, touch base scoreboard, touch base scoreboard, touch base scoreboard. So this is the first loop. You create this loop by creating an objective. Now, once this loop is finished, then it's going to take you back to the objective loop. And once you run out of objectives, but if you haven't completed the project, then you're back. Then you go to the no. The no is going to put you through another brainstorming activity in order to create an objective. Now, there's one problem. Maybe you have multiple ideas from this brainstorming activity, and so then you have to click this button called choose, which doesn't work. And choose is going to help you to go through to make a decision about what's the next objective from this objective brainstorming activity to put into here. And now we have another objective. Once you have an objective, then you're back into the touch base scoreboard loop. All right, so how many loops is that? The touch base scoreboard loop always begins with an objective. If you don't have an objective, then you have to do the brainstorming loop. And if you're confused about what to pick as an objective, if you have multiple ideas, then you have to go through the choose. Right? So that's the logic. This is like, so the whole idea of this app is that I think that every project basically has 5 muscles. The first muscle is you have to have a clear object. You have to have a clear vision. And it starts the brainstorming process for the vision of the project. So it's not like a huge muscle, but it's like vision, right? You have to have, let's go back into if we go into my online course, then we're going to start with, what is a company made from? So you can see that a company, you have this decision-making area, and it starts with a vision. You have to have this vision, direction of the company. So that's your starting point, is you have this vision, which is like the executive function. Then once you get past the executive function, now we go into the manager. You're managing people and processes with infrastructure. How do we do that? How do we manage people and processes with infrastructure? We do that through objectives. So then the first question is, do you know what the objective should be? And a lot of people, okay, so there actually are people that they don't even have a vision yet. So I talked to a lady a couple days ago, and she's been doing a clerk function. She's processing transactions. And so the thing is that, she doesn't have this entrepreneurial gene. She doesn't think like that. She's not she just wants a job. She wants a good job, and she wants a good paying job, and she wants a job that can grow into something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's lots of people like that. You also so she's a clerk, and then at the same time she's a technician, because she's doing some type of, I mean, she's not technically the technician for her company, but her work as a clerk, when she's doing the work that she's doing, then you can classify her as a technician. So she's a technician that's doing a clerical function for the larger business. And no, she's not managing the database in her company. So we started talking to her. I started talking to her about my online course, and we started trying to talk about these things. And she is just like, "Why are you the executive? That's the people in the offices way up there." Like, no, I don't know. What do you mean? And then manager, yeah, I have a manager, but I don't really know what she does, right? And then coach, well, yeah, my manager coaches me, and then we have people who are analyzing our business. It's like, oh no, so you're just a clerk, like you're not a manager even. So, but that's the whole reason why I started this project, because like when I met Tom and he showed me his book, like I told him my problem is that I'm not really sure how to manage people and projects. So what happened was I was in China and I was working for a US based law firm in Shanghai. And the thing is, I was doing legal research, and then eventually they're like, "Hey, we don't really need you to do legal research. We can pay Chinese people like a tenth of what you're making." And they work 10 times faster. So I was like, "What?" They're like, you're white." And I was like, "Yeah, I see that. It's been a pretty common theme for the entire time my heart's been pumping." And they're like, "Yeah, and you speak Chinese." And I was like, "Okay, where are you going with this?" They're like, "So you're a dancing monkey." I was like, "I'm a dancing monkey?" I'm like, "What about my law degree? What about like I spent the last 8 years of my life becoming one of the few foreigners that can read textbooks, 40 textbooks written in Chinese characters. I wrote the exams by hand with a pen in my hand. I had to answer questions which were written in Chinese characters, and I had to answer them with Chinese characters, and I passed all the classes, and I graduated. So doesn't that account for something?" And they're like, "No." They're like, "Can you say hoo, hoo, hee, hee?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can say hoo, hoo, hee, hee." So I started going to these events, and I was like an interpreter. And yeah, I was doing simultaneous interpretation for like the names, the rainmakers, the guys that everybody comes to the events to see and to meet. And I was the guy on the inside of the room doing the interpreting. So what does that make me? Makes me a clerk. The technicians, they're the lawyers. They're the ones that are doing the legal research. So they moved me out of the technical department. They put me in the clerk department, and now I'm doing interpretation. I'm just interpreting. And then they're like, "Hey, so okay, so in addition to this, we need you. All right. So after you do the interpretation thing, then you're doing the networking, right? You're meeting the people. You're talking. We want you to create projects." And I was like, "Create projects? What the hell are you talking about?" So this is the button I've been trying to create for for since I was in China 10 years ago, and I didn't know what to do. So I go to Silicon Valley. I talked to Tom. I told him this situation. He's like, "Dude, you just got to read my book." And I was like, "Okay." So I started reading his book, and I got to tell you, it was not easy. And I told the same story to this lady a couple days ago because this one time I was like in Canada, and I called Tom, and I was like, "Tom, I'm starting to just understand like words, like some simple words in your book, like basic words, and it's taken so long to understand it." And he's like, "Yeah, well, remember this feeling, and remember that as you teach other people, it's going to take them time to understand it too." And I would say a lot of people understand it much faster than I did because a lot of people have a lot of business experience. And so when I show them Tom's book, then they're like, "Oh, okay, I see that. Oh, okay." When I talk to CEOs that are extremely experienced and then I show them these checklists, they're like, "Okay, yeah, what's new?" It's like, "Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense." It's like, and ten years ago, I couldn't see any of that. And now it's like, I could see everything. So it's like, how'd that happen? Anyway, so I'm talking to this girl, and I was like, that's how I felt like when I first started out and I didn't understand anything. It's exactly the same thing. I was a clerk. I didn't understand anything about being a manager. So if your boss gives you an objective, so if you're the manager and you have to create the objectives and you're not exactly 100% sure what to do, or if you want to like do a brainstorming activity for what kind of objectives you should be focused on, it's here. Like, this is the magic. And those objectives, they come from Tom's book in this chapter called Inventiveness. I made a subset of his inventiveness chapter and I put it right here. So that's in the brainstorming. You click the brainstorming button, which doesn't work, and it gives you Tom's inventiveness checklist, like a subset of his inventiveness checklist. And then down here, if you want to make a choice, then it gives you a subset of Tom's impact checklist. So between like coming up with an objective or choosing which objective to pursue, it's going to put you into the objective box. Now, the objective box, I would say, I don't know, is it a subset? See, the problem is that I've been teaching Tom's book for so long that obviously I've been teaching his book. I've taught it to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So obviously it's affecting the way that I see and process information. So how do I say that this is like my own? How do I say that this objectives, like which objective would you like to talk about? What are the steps to accomplishing the objective? All right. Well, when we're talking about taking steps to accomplishing an objective, we're talking about state progress. But if I put, I mean, I could link this. I could. But the thing is that this whole process, it's like, is a represent. It's a simplified representation of the state progress checklist. Objective. I mean, it's hard to say like what specifically is this, and it's sometimes so Tom's book, it's like the foundation. It's like programming language. And so I built some things on top of that programming language, which I can't say it's my work because yeah, obviously it's my work, but it's built on the foundation of others. I mean, in Tom's inventiveness checklist has more than 5 sections. His impact checklist has more than 4 sections. It's a simplified version. And then is it connected like this? And is it connected for that reason in order to produce this? Not exactly. Is there a scoreboard? I mean, a scoreboard is just a list of tasks and statuses. And then the touch base. Actually, this is something that was missing from Tom's work. And I had this one student, he's a software programmer. And when we were talking about Tom's work, we were looking at a section where I was explaining to him the basis of his theory, which is basically here. So I went through. I told him like what's effects, what are agendas, what are potential, and then we looked at like specifically what are these elements of potential, what are these elements of agendas, what are these elements of effects, and we went into some of his actual direct outcomes checklists. This is his whole foundation of his theory, which I've mastered better than 99.9% of the Earth's population. So, you know, anyway, so I'm talking to this programmer and he's like, well, it's missing like like where do you fix it? Where do you change it? Like once you because these are like maps. And like let's say that you're running up the side of a mountain and then you overlay all these maps and then it like gives you a picture you can see. So like it's like if you have a red glass and a blue glass, and then you're looking at one of these 3D images, and then you have to put both of them to be able to see the 3D image. So these direct outcomes checklists are like you layer them in a certain way, and then you can see things. You can create insight. That's the whole idea, is to create insight, to see what other people cannot see. So I'm just like going through these checklists, for years and years and years with hundreds of different people and hundreds of different examples and hundreds of different types of jobs and different kinds of companies, just going on and on. Is it Gordon? And I'm having some problem with some of the user experiences of hey buddy, what? I'm having some problems with the user experiences of the students. And so then I had to create this course, and then I had to make some little changes here and there. And then I had to what? And then see the whole time I was just like over and over again. I'm trying to create this app. So we're finally there. Like I created these loops. I mean, when you go to work in the morning and your manager comes to talk to you, he's going to say what? He or she, or whatever those other words are that people use. What are you working on? Right? That's that's the question. Now, this is a problem because, in Tom's book, the most difficult thing to do, let's look at just one of his let's look at the state synergy checklist. All right. So, you see, in this section called Endeavor, I just realized that it took me 8 years to realize that when he says endeavor, like this thing here, what he's actually trying to say is, what are you working on? You know how many students are like, what does endeavor mean? What does endeavor mean? It's like, now I finally know. Endeavor means, what are you working on? It literally took me 10 years to understand. I mean, maybe that's like the last box to understand is actually the first box. What are you working on? And then the next question, what are you going to do today? Right? That's it. The secret of life. What is the secret of life? You got these dumb people that make stupid movies where they're like 47 or whatever the hell that was all about. I have no idea. Or The Little Prince. There's some French dude writes a book. I don't know. Like, I remember I was going on a date with this girl in Moscow, and oh, it was crazy, man. Because she had just finished like this reconstructive surgery of her teeth. She had some weird thing where her teeth were like pointed oddly. But when I met her, it didn't look like that. She already had the surgery and everything was fine. And she had a daughter, and her daughter's teeth were fine. So I don't know what the deal was. Anyway, so she was telling me that she just loves this book. Le petit I don't know how do you say that. I've been learning French, but prince, le petit prince. And I was just like, this book. I hate this book. It's so stupid. And the lady's like her head exploded. Like that's the whole point of the book, right? It's because you're supposed to keep like your the wonderment of childhood, and like you're not supposed to reject things onto their face. And you're supposed. I don't even know what the book's about. Like I was just like, nah, it's stupid. I think it's so pretentious. Hey, buddy, what? Did you have fun outside? Yeah, you ready for going for a run? This stupid dog makes me run. I've literally been running like basically almost every single night. Like 99.9% of the nights for the last 18 months of my life have been outside on the street with this dang dog. All right. So, what are you working on? What are you going to do today? And if you're the manager, what's the next question? What do you need help with? Right? Because the one thing that you want to do is like solve an issue. But as the manager, you don't want to be the person who solves the problem. You want to be the person who facilitates the thinking process of the resource who's doing the work. So it's like the question is like, do you need me to motivate you? Do you need me to empower you? Do you need me to provide you with some kind of resource? Like, what exactly is it that you need help with? And then they're like, then they start to articulate what it is. Something it could be psychological. Who knows what it is? And then after you let them talk for a while, once they've kind of explained everything, then what are some potential sources of assistance? Either you can answer that, but it's better if you get them to answer it. Okay, so what? How can? So you ask them. All right. So what are some sources of assistance? And then they're like just talking through the sources of assistance. It's like you're prompt engineering. It's just like this cursor, right? So what's the whole point of this cursor? It's because, like, the question is, why can't cursor just go and fix everything by itself? Why does it need me? Like, what the heck? I gave it I gave it the product requirements document. Why can't it? And then screwed it all up. It has no idea what my project's about. It actually did a better job after I uploaded some pictures, So, anyways, you can just assume that people are the same, and you have to prompt them. What are you working on? They articulate it. What are you going to do today? They articulate it. What do you need help with? Nothing. Okay, go ahead. Sounds like you know what to do. Or they have something to talk about. They start talking. Blah 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 blah. They finish talking. Okay, so what are some potential sources of assistance? You're the manager. I need you to help me. Okay, so how can I help you? Like, I should be asking questions. I shouldn't be giving answers. And then once they've exhausted all of their bank of information, then it's like, oh, okay, so I see what you need. And then you hand them the thing which they need. All right, good. So can we update a status? Do we need to add or delete something from the task? Is there some change to the timeline? That goes right back into the scoreboard. And then once our scoreboard's done, once everything's been finished, then we go back and we create another objective. Now the thing is, you can do you could do two objectives, or you could do multiple at the same time. It's just you put it in the history, and then you just click. I mean, you'll probably end up like moving the most important objectives to the top. There is one problem which I haven't figured out the solution for yet, because this project, it's gonna get really long. So I'm gonna have to put it into a box, and then you're gonna have to be able to scroll so that there's like it's only fits in a certain size, as well as the history. And then the problem is, like, if I have a container, and then you're scrolling in the container, then and then you click this button with the two arrows, then it should be able to work. The issue is because if the project box gets too long, then these two arrows are going to go down the screen. Or if the history box is too long, then that, because when this goes to the top of the screen, this will still be in the middle, and you don't want to. It's going to, anyways. It's a scrolling issue. So we could have two projects going on at the same time. We click a different project. We click division, and you can change it. Like let's go back. Okay, so let's talk about the objectives. Okay, well, before we do our brainstorming activity about, like, thinking about what the next objective should be, let's go back and open up the vision. So now that we've worked on a couple objectives, let's just do another vision meeting, and let's just talk about these areas again. So what's the purpose of our project? And, like, how do you feel like the purpose of our project has changed any at all over the last couple of weeks? And what is it that we hope to achieve with this project? And have we made any major changes to that hope? And what market are we competing in? And should we add something? Should we start to compete in new markets? And what are some important characteristics of our customers? And should we start to add some new customer segments? And how are we going to win? These are the essential questions for project management. So, anyways, as you can see, I've just started with cursor. We got something's happening here. I like this. It moves up and down, but and then it pops up at the very bottom. And delete account. I'm gonna delete my account. Are you sure you want to delete the account? Okay. Nothing happened. Okay. You see. So it's like nothing actually works. But we'll just work on that just slowly, and then at some point everything will be connected. Then on the other side of the app, it's like some more of Tom's checklists that represent a different perspective. It's actually a higher level of see, it's actually the executive level. So this app that I'm designing right now, the MVP, is the manager app. And then on the left side, it's going to be the executive side of that app. Because on the executive side, we're going to be talking about things like how your business as a whole is going to expand, what areas of the business we need to focus on for that business to expand, and then what do these teams actually look like? How do we actually succeed in that expansion process? We have to put the right people and the right resources together. And then we have this other thing where we're looking at our team performance. Our team performance is connected to the resources that we have available, the resources that we need, the assumptions that we have, the data that we have, the data that we need, and the purposes that we're trying to pursue. And and getting some clarity on the people that we are working with, and do they have the right purposes in mind. So we have those elements. And then there's like, hey, it's missing actually. There's like a way to think about like the performance, like people performance. How well are people performing? And how much automation do we have in our systems? And yeah, I took all of that out of this first app because I felt like I'm not so worried about the performance, because if we're doing this touch base properly, like we gotta finish a lot of objectives, and then at some point we're gonna be able to start doing some performance evaluation. But I feel like I would prefer not to deal with performance evaluation at this level. At this level, it's just we're just trying to get these objectives done. And it's like if they don't have the skill, so in here you can see like what skills are necessary to complete the task. And if the people don't have the skills, what are you eating, Gordon? What did you find? What are you snacking on? Why are you being annoying? Because he wants to go running, obviously. What's in your mouth? What are you eating? I know you want to go out running. It's your time, right? So, and then so if they don't have the skills, then it's like, okay, well, we got the wrong person on the job. Like, see, the whole point when the manager creates an objective, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the guys who are on our team that are going to be doing that work. I mean, maybe, because we're going to put up the tasks and then we're going to assign people to it. And depending on the tasks that we come up with, we're going to be assigning different people. And then also, we've already gone through the brainstorming process of talking about like what skills are necessary, what tools are necessary, who do we need to contact in the process of work, who do you need to cooperate with. So it's very clear about like thinking through this brainstorming process of exactly what tasks are going to be. What are you doing? What do you want? This dog's dying. I think he's going to lose his mind. I guarantee he's going to cry. He's going to start crying at any second now. Oh, I want to go outside and run. I want to go outside and run. Want to go outside and run, huh? Yeah, obviously. This is the only time when you like me during the day is when you're not getting what you want. Yeah, give you some scratchy scratch. Yeah, so that's the whole point, is brainstorming and then putting it into a to-do list. And then, like, hey, so like then at that point, it's like we just got to get this thing done. So at this point, we're gonna do touch base, and maybe there's a skill that the person doesn't have. But a lot of businesses, we don't have the luxury of hiring somebody else. So let's figure out what skill you need, and then figure out how we're gonna increase your ability to be able to do that task. We need to help you to develop those skills. You know, that's just the reality of it. Like this dang dog. It's like, what am I gonna do with this dog? Like he's in my life. And some businesses, they're like, make it or break it. If you can't handle it, then get out. This is a competitive world. So if you can't handle it, then you're fired. But then there's other businesses where it's like, I don't know what to do with this dog. Like he just showed up in my life and then he's been here for 18 months. What am I gonna do? Like I just had to lower my expectations. He still hasn't started speaking English yet. Isn't that right? You haven't spoken a word of English this entire time you've been here. It's just, this dog is dying. He wants to go outside so bad. Are you gonna die, goody good? Are you gonna die? Yeah, you see, he's ready to die. And then at some point, there's training involved, right? So when it's time to figure out what the new objective is going to be, then like yeah, there's a set of principles of what you should be thinking about when it comes to coming up with what is the next objective going to be within this set of objectives. There's a way I think you should be thinking about that. There are 5 essential themes to creating objectives that really make a difference. Now, of course, you might not use these themes to create your objective. Maybe you have your own idea for what that objective should be. That's okay. That's fine. So then create the objective and then create the scoreboard. But at the end of the day, there's no way you can get past this scoreboard. You're never going to get past the concept of doing tasks, setting a status, assigning people, and then accomplishing it by a specific date. And you're never going to get past the idea of people having problems or working on something today or updating your scoreboard. It's just impossible. This is the foundation of work. This is the actual foundation of work. And then I agree with Tom that this is the foundation of creating new objectives if you're not exactly sure where to go. And if you even if you think you know where you're going, these key 5 principles will help you to define objectives so that you get better results. And then, of course, you need to have this debate function. You have to have the ability to make decisions. When you have more than one option, you have to be able to choose one of those options. There has to be some kind of process for making those decisions, right? So this is the essential, this is it. These are the essential characteristics of project management. Now, okay, maybe you want to spend lots of money and you want to do all the PMP certification. A lot of people are like, why don't you, there's already a lot of different institutes. And I was talking to one dude from Saudi Arabia who just thought he was a genius. And it's like, well, here's a website. You should go here. You should learn from smarter people. You should learn from more experienced people. You should learn from, it's like, okay, I agree. And then after talking to him for 10 minutes, I realized, okay, you're an analyst. What you're talking about is an analyst function. That's not, that's, I mean, yeah, okay. So if I want to learn how to become a better analyst, then I should go to this website and learn all that stuff. But I'm more of like a generalist. I'm trying to understand what is the algorithm of project management. And then once you have the algorithm, you see, when I was in China all those years ago, I was trying to figure out, how do I manage people and processes? What's the algorithm? Once I have the algorithm, now I can go out and manage people and projects. So anyway, so I'm listening to some guy today. I was listening to Jordan Peterson's thing today on he was talking to the guy who created BlackBerry. And I was thinking about him, like this guy that created this BlackBerry. And there's so many people that they find massive success. And I'm wondering, like, what project management tool did they use when they created massive success? Because it's just like, I remember in my church there was like this, uh, back when Stephen Covey, because Stephen Covey's a Mormon guy too, and so Stephen Covey at one point he ended up, I heard that he was like helping like the leadership of the Mormon Church, because he was like, he had all the 7 habits of highly effective people, and then they went in to kind of coach some of the top leaders of our religious organization, and at some point, um, I heard this story where they invited this scientist to give a speech, and they asked the scientist to talk about how he sets goals, and then he was like, "Well, actually, I don't really set goals," and they're like, "Oh no, his talk is going to be terrible. He doesn't set goals." But then when he explained his work process, it was clear that he set goals. He just didn't explain it in the same using the same words. And so I'm just wondering, like, what are the processes that like these people use when they are pursuing their objectives? Like, how did they know what to do specifically? And then, like, how did they work on those things step by step? And I mean, you could say that I've just been trying to avoid work all these years, been pushing projects away. I was pushing opportunities away, and but now it's like, okay, well, this is my work, and this is what I figured out in the last 8 years of my life. I haven't been in Canada for 8 years. I left Canada for Moscow 8 years ago to do this, and I only got half of it done. Anyways, it's an MVP, so that's why it says 1.0 up here, because like I can get started, right? So, anyways, here it is now, and then luckily at the same time we got Cursor. You see, Arrowhead MVP 1.0. It's all here. It's all ready to go. So let's do it. All right, Gordy Gord. I wonder if the audio actually worked. Anyways, it'll be crazy if it didn't work. So we did it, and now it's time to go outside and go for a run. Isn't that right, Gordy Gord? Isn't that right, Gordy Gord? Nothing. Peace.